My name is Sanne Marie van der Merwe, the Managing Director of Itemba Governance and Statutory Solutions, company that I started approximately 6 years ago, coming from the corporate world, where I acted mostly as a corporate lawyer and a company secretary. I always say that it's not my legal background that qualifies me to talk about subjects such as the Companies Act. It's more the scars that I have on my back, having grown up in boardrooms in various capacities as a lawyer, as an advisor, as a company secretary, also as a non-executive director and executive director, that I've realized that one of the most important and critical elements in the boardroom and for those attending the boardroom in an advisory capacity is to understand what I always call the rules of engagement. Understanding what it is that is required as a minimum from a statutory point of view, and then being able, based on that, to give advice and guidance to clients. I'm consulted often these days in Itemba to assist with resolving disputes, often being also approached by the auditors to give advice, to give opinions, and to try and facilitate and mediate any dispute that they may have between themselves and their clients, or in their client companies, between shareholders and directors. And when I do this, I'm often astonished by the lack of understanding of basic requirements of the law. A good example is that I received a phone call the other day from the CEO of one of my non-profit company clients, asking me whether the financial statements have to be signed before it's sent to the members. I was astonished by the lack of understanding and that simple principle to know that the financial statements have to be signed. And one of the questions that came up in my mind is, where were the auditors? Surely the auditors will ensure as well that the financial statements are properly signed off before it's sent to members. So the purpose of the workshop that we will be presenting during the course of May is really to focus on the day-to-day, simple but very important rules and regulations of the New Companies Act. And it is, just as I say, a new act that has brought some new curveballs in our lives, many grey areas, many areas of uncertainty, a new way of doing things. This act has had quite an impact on the environment for closed corporations, the manner in which closed corporations have to report from a financial point of view, and many other aspects for companies themselves. One of which, the Memorandum of Incorporation, has left many people with question marks and concerns and uncertainties. Our 2-year window period to align our old Articles of Association with the new Memorandum of Incorporation expired, as you may know, in May 2013, which means that many companies are finding themselves with Articles of Association which now prevail over shareholders' agreements, which has caused a great deal of confusion and uncertainty. The Memorandum of Incorporation, in terms of the New Companies Act, allows for substantial flexibility, but one cannot give advice and guidance to your clients if you don't understand where that flexibility is actually applicable and how it can be used to the benefit of clients to really govern and regulate their own governance in their organization. So a little bit of focus on what should be in the Memorandum of Incorporation, how to deal with some of the important principles that needs to be included in there. Auditing has changed considerably. The whole idea of companies not having to audit themselves must be giving some of you goose flesh and sleepless nights and sweat probably running down your back. It is new. We, and especially in the companies and smaller companies, do not understand the new rules and regulations that govern the financial reporting. So obviously that will be a focus of the workshop as well. A little bit of discussions on directors' duties. There were substantial publications in the media when this new act became effective as to the draconian measures that have been included in the act, resulting in major exposure and an increase in the risk and potential liability of directors and prescribed officers. And although it might be so that Those provisions have been included and has been criminalised and been codified in the Act. In effect, the fiduciary duties of directors and officers of companies have been with us forever. What is now important is just to understand how that impacts from a statutory point of view on the manner in which directors and officers need to actually perform their duties and fulfill their functions. And to assist you in also giving advice to your clients, I will be touching on directors' duties and liabilities. This new Act contains some interesting new concept, the whole issue about solvency and liquidity, which is a main feature of the new Companies Act, the requirements around financial assistance, specifically also considering group companies and intercompany loans, the new requirement to approve directors' fees by way of special resolution of shareholders, and then one of the new governance features of the Act, the introduction of the Social and Ethics Committee, which interestingly enough in its statutory functions do not refer to ethics, but it was for some reason decided to refer to this as the Social and Ethics Committee, which had been introduced and could be applicable and of relevance to any entity, depending on its size. Not only, as we often think, public listed companies, but also Pty Limited's private companies and non-profit companies. Lastly, business rescue is also a new feature of the Act. We've seen a number of interesting entities already making use of Chapter 6 of the new Companies Act. More recently, I think the Moyo chain of restaurants have gone into business rescue and a few others. And so we'll be touching on what business rescue mean, when business rescue has to be considered, and what the duties of the board and other role players are in that regard. So in summary, that's some of the topics that we will be addressing in the workshop. We look forward to meeting you there.